I'll never forget the sound my garage made that morning. Not the usual creak or soft groan of a spring. It was a violent rattle, like someone yanked my house awake by the ribs. By the time I hit the porch, my Challenger's pipes were already roaring down the street, taillights blinking like a dare. My stomach dropped. That car wasn't just metal and gas. It was my father's Saturdays. My own knuckles, years of grease, patience. In quiet pride, I stood there barefoot on the cold concrete, coffee cooling in my hand, and watched my car vanish past the HOA sign at the neighborhood exit. The flag on my porch hung still, like it couldn't believe it either. Then anger rose up and snapped the morning in half. Just 2 hours earlier, I'd had another run-in with her. Karen, the self-appointed sheriff of our HOA, perfectly ironed polo, clipboard like a sword. She'd stopped on her power walk and tapped a fresh violation notice against my mailbox. Non-compliant vehicle storage. She said, glancing toward my garage. Street visibility. Community standard. The car's in my garage, I told her. When the doors open, it's visible. She shot back like she owned the air itself. She even took a picture. Rules are rules. I almost laughed, but I didn't. My father always said, don't start with heat, start with facts. So I told her that Challenger's the one I rebuilt after Dad passed. Bought it half dead, brought it back to life right here. That sound you hear in the evenings? That's me keeping a promise. She frowned, like promises were noise. Keep the door down, she said, walking off. I should have taken that as a warning. I didn't. I couldn't have imagined what would come next. After the theft, my hands shook dialing the sheriff. I felt stupid I'd left the keys hanging on the peg by the workbench while grabbing a rag. The deputy took my statement, put out a bolo. I sent him photos, bright orange, black stripes, a small flag decal on the rear quarter panel. You couldn't miss it unless you wanted to. By noon, I knew exactly who had it. Word travels fast in our town. One of the teenage landscapers saw everything. Karen's son, hoodie up, friend in the passenger seat filming. He laughed like he just won the lottery, the kid said. I didn't feel rage. Not yet, just disbelief. That same boy had stood in my driveway last spring, asking about horsepower and torque. Told me it was his dream car. I showed him the new cams, explained how patience builds power. I didn't see a thief. I saw a kid hungry for purpose, so I called Karen. She answered quick. This is not the time, she snapped. Your son took my car.
Now, silence.
Then you can't prove that. I have a witness. Don't harass my family, she barked. I'm calling the board. I hung up, jaw tight. The flag on my porch barely moved, but it might as well have nodded. I called the deputy again. He said they had eyes on it, 2 teens showing off on the bypass. Nothing wild yet. Then my phone buzzed. A neighbor sent me a link. Breaking news. Police pursuit. Teenage drivers. Orange Dodge Challenger. Live helicopter feed. My car. My heart. My nightmare. I stood there on the porch with the sheriff on the phone and the live feed in my hand. The chopper's camera followed my Challenger, weaving through traffic on the river road, an orange streak cutting between gray sedans. Every time it hit the throttle, I could hear it, that roar I'd tuned by hand. Now it sounded like my own voice shouting nonsense in public. A second deputy patched in. We've got spike strips ahead. We'll try to end this clean. Please, I said, my voice cracking. Next door, Mr. Jensen, old Vietnam vet, steady as oak, walked over with his cane. You want coffee? He asked. I nodded. He brought it hot and black. We stood shoulder to shoulder, to neighbors under a quiet flag, listening to a helicopter and the thud of our hearts. Then the news anchor's tone changed. They just missed a school bus, he said. I shut my eyes. My dad would have pulled over, looked the officer in the eye, said, Sir, I think what hurt most wasn't the theft. It was watching something built with love turned into a weapon. The boys hit the overpass and met a wall of flashing blue. The chopper dipped, zoomed in. My car swerved, Fishtailed. Clipped the guardrail. They tried to recover. No chance. The spike strips took both front tires. Smoke exploded. The Challenger skidded sideways and stopped in a loud cloud of humiliation. The door burst open. Karen's son jumped out with his hands up. The passenger followed, still recording. Deputies swarmed. It was over in seconds. The deputy on the phone said, "We've got them." "You can meet us at the tow yard." "You mean the wreck?" I muttered. "It's not totaled." Small mercy. By the time I got there, Karen was already pacing by the chain-link fence, arms crossed like she was the victim. Her son sat on the curb, wrapped in a blanket, smaller than I'd ever seen him. "You happy?" She snapped when she saw me. "No," I said. "Not even close. I'll pay your fine if you drop charges." "That's not how this works. He made a mistake." "Boys do stupid things. Boys learn from consequences," Mr. Jensen said behind me. He'd insisted on coming. A deputy brought paperwork. Felony motor vehicle theft, evading, reckless endangerment. The words felt heavy in my hands. I looked at the car, fender crumpled, my father's decal gone. It stung, but I knew this could have ended in a tragedy. "I'll cooperate with the DA," I told the deputy. "He needs to understand what he did," Karen scoffed. "He understands you left your garage open." I met her eyes. "Calm. Your rules didn't build that car. And your son didn't steal from a community. He stole from a family." She didn't answer. Maybe for the first time, she didn't have one. A few days later, her son showed up at my door. No mother, no attitude, just a kid holding sandpaper and a face mask. He said, "Can I help fix it?" I thought of my dad. "You can start by listening," I said. Every afternoon after that, he showed up. Quiet, worked steady. We stripped paint, pounded metal, talked about torque versus ego. Sometimes he'd ask real questions. Sometimes he just worked. Karen never came once. When we finally rolled the car into the sun, the orange paint shone again, a little rough in spots, but alive. The boy looked at me. "Thank you for not destroying me." "I didn't save you," I said. "You're saving yourself." We drove to the river road and back. He sat in the passenger seat, watching the speedometer like it was a teacher. Didn't ask to drive. Didn't need to. Back at the house, he looked up at the flag. "I didn't get it before," he said quietly. "I do now." I believed him. Karen still glares when she walks by. She sent another notice last week, said my trash bin was visible 6 minutes past pickup. Some folks only know one way to feel important, but I've learned something. I'm not responsible for their control, only for my own. That night, the lake was calm. The Challenger cooled in the garage. The flag waved soft in the breeze. For the first time in a long while, so did I respect is louder than horsepower, but you only hear it when you slow down. Have you ever faced an HOA like this? Or had a neighbor cross a line? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. If you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe and let's stand up together.